I remember a time when certain topics of conversations just weren't talked about around kids. If the topic of sex or drugs or infidelity, family discord, or just some good juicy gossip was brought up around kids, they were sent to the other room. And if there was a social gathering or some adult music or some adult language was being tossed around, kids were made to go outside. And if we did happen to hear anything, we were definitely taught not to repeat it because we knew for sure there would be consequences. But in today's society, there no longer seems to be any rules about what should or shouldn't be spoken around children. And absolutely no thought is given to what may or may not be appropriate for their young ears. In fact, I've seen people go out of their way to make sure their kids hear what's being said because they want them to know what's really going on. Now, while I can understand why adults may want children to hear things in order to open their eyes to some realizations of what's going on around them, I wonder if any thought is ever given to how they will not only receive the information, but also how they will process what they're hearing. Especially when it's something new or something they're hearing for the first time, and it's coming from people that they care about tremendously. Often the extra time is not taken to help kids understand what they've just heard, so they're left to grapple with what it means. And if no one explains or asks them if they've understood what they've heard, they make assumptions. And though many times their assumptions may be correct, what happens when they're not? If you have a few minutes, I'd like to share with you a few ways we can get back to making our conversations more kid-friendly so that we don't risk their little ears taking in information they don't know what to do with and end up making incorrect assumptions that impact the way they see the world, how they see others around them, and ultimately how they see themselves. Hi, welcome to You Can Talk. I'm Ruth Finney, and this is a channel solely dedicated to helping you talk your way to healthier relationships. Whether you're married or dating, or if you're struggling to communicate with family or friends or people you work with, then this is the channel that will help you experience some real change. If you're willing to put some simple principles into practice, become a talker, subscribe to You Can Talk, and check out my tips, lessons, and classes on weekday mornings at 5 a.m. Central Standard Time, or come chat with me on my Talk to live sessions held on Saturday nights from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Walk with me through the user's manual as we discover some revelations in communication that you can incorporate into your life so you can talk your way to healthier relationships. You know, often I wish people's mouths would come with ratings. You know, like the ones we see on movies, rated R, rated PG-13, or G-rated. Yeah, but they don't. So occasionally I'll find myself in a room with others that I may or may not be meeting for the first time. And what starts out as maybe a G-rated meet and greet can quickly turn into a PG-13 level language, accompanied by some rated R level aggression, and as they're talking about an X-rated topic. Now, I'm an adult, so I know how to respond or not to respond to the words that come out of people's mouths when they're speaking to me. But when kids are in the room, innocently playing or just hanging around, and these mature-rated words fall upon their ears, they don't always know what to do with them. Some will hear the words and just let them bounce right off. Others will hear, wonder what they mean, and go on about their business. But others, you know, those little smart, inquisitive ones, they'll hear them, take them in, ask you about them, and then repeat them the very moment they get the opportunity to practice. And more times than not, it's often around the very people we wish they wouldn't have. So what can we do to help children process what they're hearing in ways that they can understand it while teaching them what's appropriate and what's not, so that they're not impacted negatively by our careless words? Well, first we can ask them what they heard and what do they think it means. To the best of our ability, we can work to explain what they heard and maybe why it wasn't an appropriate thing for them to hear. Then we can talk to them about emotions and how they can affect our words, but also let them know that emotions can be temporary. And even though we say things, it may not be the whole truth of what we feel. And maybe give them an analogy about how sometimes when they're mad at their sibling or one of their friends, or they may get upset and say things like, I don't love you, I don't like you, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And if it's a teen, we may even hear things like, get out of my life, I hate you, I don't ever want to see you again. And even though it may feel true at the moment, In their hearts, they still do love or like the person and want to be their friend, and they definitely want to keep them in their lives. They're just really upset and say things they don't always mean. And from there, we can explain that adults do the very same thing when we're experiencing emotions that make us mad, upset, excited, happy, or even sad. We say words that are not always appropriate. From there, we can talk to them about alternative words or alternative ways to express what they're feeling so they know that they have options and they learn early in life that there are healthy ways to express their emotions. And if we have adults that come around and don't give a second thought about what is or isn't appropriate around young children or even our teens, we can ask them to watch their language or topics of conversation in front of our children. And if they don't want to honor our requests, we can ask them to take the conversation outside or intentionally limit the time and exposure they have around our children. We can't control what others do, but we can control ourselves and our own. So don't be afraid to take action on what you think is best to protect what goes into the ear gates and eye gates of the children you're responsible for. Our user's manual tells us in Psalms 127, verses 3 through 5, that children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, and a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Meaning we have the ability to point them to the right direction, help them aim for higher ground, project them into areas that we haven't even been able to achieve, and center them right into the midst of God's will. When we protect and guide children in how to process and overcome the negativity of words spoken in this world, we strengthen them to achieve the things they may have thought were impossible. We open their minds to the realization that we have a choice in how we live and how we move and how we relate to others in the world by how we communicate. We show them that they're worthy to receive love and respect, and we charge them to show love and respect towards themselves and others, even with our words. Because when they learn early that words matter, it helps them to understand their power and how it can be used to degrade a person or elevate others to reach their highest potential. The words we use around our children matter because they matter. And if we want them to thrive in a world that's constantly trying to deprive them of life, we have to make sure that we ourselves and those around them are speaking life into them. So keep your conversations kid-friendly, and maybe, just maybe, we can show them the possibility of what the world could look like when we surround them with healthy conversations rather than lifeless ones. If you can relate to any or all of these communication struggles, and you're tired of the seemingly endless cycle of communication barriers that are keeping you from the relationships that you desire to have with others, then become a talker. Subscribe to You Can Talk. Select that notification bell down below and meet me here on weekday mornings at 5 a.m. for talk tips, lessons, and classes. Or come chat with me over on my Saturday night Talk to Ruth live sessions from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks for watching, and if you would, please hit that like button, leave a comment below, and know that whatever you're committed to working on, I'm rooting for you and praying for you, because you can tame the tongue, approach with compassion, listen deeply, knock down the barriers, and talk your way to healthier relationships. Let your communication be the light of God's love the world so desperately needs to hear.